Nobody prepares you for the moment your wife's hospital calls you from a number that isn't hers. Not the parenting books. Not the 2 years of figuring out how to actually talk to each other instead of around each other. Not the 4 years of building something real from what started as the worst decision either of us had ever made. One Thursday afternoon, my phone rang and the area code was Riverside Medical, and my body understood before my brain did. I picked up. I listened. And then I sat down on the floor of my study. The one with the good morning light. The one she had measured and not told me about until I found out anyway. And I held the phone in both hands, and I told myself to breathe the way she had once told me to breathe in an airport when I was falling apart in front of a stranger. She was alive. That was the first thing they said. The second thing they said changed everything else. Let me back up. Elena had been asking questions again. I want to be clear that this was not unusual. Elena, at 4.5, had been asking questions since before she had the words for them, since the stage where the questions came out as pointed looks and insistent sounds, and the very specific toddler energy of someone who understood that adults were withholding information and considered this a personal offense. She asked about everything. We had a policy in our house. You answer honestly, age appropriately, and without flinching, because a child who learns that questions are welcome becomes a person who keeps asking them. Veronica held this position harder than I did. She had grown up somewhere questions were not welcome and had spent her 20s filling in the gaps herself, and she considered it one of the things she was most determined not to pass on. So we answered everything. What we had not anticipated was Elena applying this policy at the hospital. Veronica brought her in once a month. Ina called it helping Mama work. What it actually was. Elena sitting in Veronica's office, drawing elaborate pictures she described as surgeries while Veronica reviewed files, and occasionally wandering the hallway with the confident energy of a child who understood that this building belonged to her mother and therefore partially to her. The call came from administration at 3:15. Not medical. Administrative. The kind that begins with a very careful clearing of the throat. I listened to what Elena had apparently told Dr. Osi, the head of pediatrics, during an unsupervised hallway conversation that afternoon, that her mama was the best doctor in the hospital, that her mama had fixed a lot of broken hearts, that her mama had a broken heart once too, a different kind, and the hospital had helped. That her mama had a secret that nobody was supposed to know about, but she knew, because she was very smart. And she had heard Mama and Mommy talking late at night when they thought she was asleep. I thanked the administrator. I hung up. I sat at my desk for 4 minutes doing nothing. Then I called Veronica. She answered on the first ring. She always answered on the first ring when it was me. What happened? She said. Not hello. She had learned, over 4 years of marriage, the difference between my ordinary calls and my something has shifted calls. I told her what Elena had said. The silence on her end was the full kind. Not empty, packed. Veronica, I said. I know, she said. That's not why I'm calling, I said. I know, she said again. Come home, I said. Tonight we talk. She came home at 5:30. Elena burst through the door ahead of her, some message she had made of a heart, something about with a face on it and legs, because in Elena's medical understanding, hearts were ambulatory. And James, who had recently discovered that speed existed, lurched across the room toward me, with the confidence of someone who had not yet fully understood gravity. I caught him. I kissed Elena's head. I looked at Veronica over the beautiful noise of our children, and she looked back, and we had the whole conversation in 3 seconds without a word. After dinner, after bath, after the nightly negotiation involving 2 children, one stuffed elephant, a stuffed dinosaur named Doug, who had entered our lives without warning 3 months ago, and at least one request for water that was transparently a delay tactic. After all of it, we sat at the kitchen table, hands around mugs neither of us were drinking from. The house quiet the way it only got after the children were down, a different quiet than before the children. Fuller, a house that knew it was temporarily still. Tell me, I said. She looked at the table. The cardiac situation, she said. Dr. Singh and I have been having conversations that I have not fully shared with you. I kept my hands still around my mug. Not because things have gotten worse, she said quickly. She looked up at me. My numbers are good. The arrhythmia is managed. The structural issue is stable. I need you to hear that first. But, I said. But, she said, there is a component of the condition that is genetic. Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy can be hereditary. She paused. Elena and James need to be screened. Echocardiograms. Baseline monitoring. Dr. Singh recommended it 6 months ago. 6 months since, I said. Yes, she said. I breathed in, held it, let it out. You have been carrying this for 6 months, I said. I was building today, she started. Don't, I said. She stopped. I know what you were doing, I said. You were processing it alone until you could present me with a complete picture and a protocol and a plan. And I understand why that is how your brain works. And I have told you before, and I am telling you again that when it is our children's health, that is not protecting me. That is making a decision about what I am allowed to know about my own family. Her jaw tightened. You're right, she said. Why did you wait? I said, not angry, just needing to understand. She was quiet for a long moment, because the moment I tell you, she said, it becomes real differently. When it is only mine, I can assess it. I can manage the variables and determine the probabilities and maintain control of the situation. She looked at her mug. The moment I give it to you, it stops being something I can manage alone. And I have spent my entire life managing things alone, and I am still, she said, still not finished learning what it means not to. I sat with that. I do understand that, I said. And you have to understand that managing it alone is not the same as protecting us. It is leaving me outside of our own life. She received that the way she received hard things now, which was differently than she used to. Not defensive, not immediately rebuilding the wall, just taking it in. I should have told you in September, she said. Yes, I said. I'm telling you, September, she said. 6 months late, I said. Yes, she said. I'm sorry, Sarah. I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. We are making the appointments, I said. Together. We go together. Whatever the results are, we handle them together. You are not processing this first and arriving at conclusions alone, and then presenting me with the finished architecture. Yes, she said. And you call Dr. Singh tomorrow, and I am on that call, I said. Yes. And the next time something happens with our children's health that you know, and I don't, I said, you tell me within 24 hours, not 6 months, not 3 weeks, one day. She looked at our hands. That's a reasonable boundary, she said. Very Veronica. Clinical and sincere at the same time. It's not a boundary, I said. It's a marriage. She looked up at me. Yes, she said. It is. We sat there until the tea was cold and the city outside had done its late settling, and neither of us moved because sometimes the thing needs to simply sit in the room. The appointments were made the following week. In the days between, something changed in the house. Nothing visible to anyone who didn't know her the way I did. But the thing that had been held in one pair of hands was now in two, and the weight of it distributed differently, and she felt it. She started talking about it. Not as performance. Not as proof of communication. Organically, the way you mention something that is occupying your mind when it surfaces. She would come home and say, Singh called, and I want to tell you what we discussed. She would sit down at the kitchen table and say, I've been reading about the screening protocol, and there are things you should know. Once she came home and sat across from me and said, how are you feeling about next week? And meant it as a genuine question, not a formality. I'm scared, I said. Me too, she said, without hesitation. Without managing it first. That was new. That was 4 years in the making, and it was new every time it happened. Elena's appointment was a Wednesday. She had been told there would be a special picture of her heart, that it didn't hurt, that afterward she could choose lunch. She had been refining her lunch choice for 5 days with the focus of a small person who understood this was a significant negotiating opportunity. Pasta, fish tank, non-negotiable. Both together or nothing. Veronica carried her into the imaging suite the way she carried Elena when she wanted her to feel held rather than managed. Elena was in her yellow sweater. Gerald had been granted visitor status after Elena presented a compelling case at breakfast. The technician talked to Gerald the entire time. I stood on one side. Veronica stood on the other. Halfway through the scan, Elena looked at the ceiling and said, "Mama, is your heart okay now?" "Yes, Bug," Veronica said. "Very okay. Because the doctors fixed it," Elena said. "Because the doctors fixed it," Veronica said. Her voice was perfectly steady. I was watching her hands on the edge of the table, still, doing the work of stillness. I reached across and covered her hands with mine. She turned hers over and held on. Elena's results were normal. Dr. Singh said the word, and I felt Veronica's grip change. Not tighten, release. The physical thing that happens when something you have been holding for 6 months finally puts itself down. "Normal," Veronica said. "Just to hear it." "Normal," Dr. Singh said. "Follow up in 2 years, standard practice. Nothing here requiring intervention." I looked at her profile. She was holding it together the way she always did in medical settings. The composed exterior that had been built by years of delivering and receiving difficult news in rooms where falling apart helped no one. But I could see the edges of it, the particular brightness, the exhale that was longer than necessary. "Thank you," I said to Dr. Singh, "for both of us." James's appointment was the following week. In the days between, Veronica watched our children differently, consciously. She watched James eat breakfast with the attention of someone memorizing something. She let Elena conduct a full medical lecture about Gerald's health history at dinner without redirecting it. She came to bed at a reasonable hour 3 nights running. On the night before James's appointment, she was awake when I woke at 2, just lying there, not reading, not on her phone, looking at the ceiling. "Talk to me," I said. "I keep building the protocol," she said. "If his results show something, the monitoring plan, the intervention options, the surgical consideration at different severity levels. I can't stop running the scenarios. That's your brain doing what it does when it's scared," I said. "I know," she said. "James is going to be okay," I said. "And if something shows up, we are going to handle it the same way we handle everything. Together and out loud and without you processing it alone first." She turned toward me. "I should have told you in September," she said. "I know," I said. "We've said that. I keep thinking about it," she said, "the months I carried it. What those months cost you without you knowing what was being taken." "We don't do it perfectly," I said. "We do it better than we did. That's all that's available." She put her forehead against mine in the dark. "I love you," she said, "more than I know how to say correctly." "You say it correctly every time," I said. James was also normal. Veronica cried in the hospital parking lot. Not the contained version, not the managed version. The real one, the kind I had seen twice before, each time a child was born, the sound that comes from underneath all the architecture when the architecture finally agrees to step aside. I held her in the front seat with the windows fogged and the hospital behind us, and I did not say anything because the moment was already saying everything. When she stopped, she looked at herself in the visor mirror. "I look terrible," she said. "You look like someone who just found out both her children are healthy," I said. "The same thing," she said. I laughed. She almost laughed. She fixed her face with the efficiency of someone with limited patience for their own public vulnerability. Then she looked at me. "Pasta," she said, "and the fish tank." I looked at her. "I asked James this morning," she said, what he wanted if everything was good. He said fishes." "He said fishes," I said. "He has opinions," she said. "We should respect them." We went to the restaurant. James pressed his face against the fish tank glass and said fishes 17 times. Elena explained the fish tank to Gerald. Veronica ate pasta and watched our children with the expression she had when she was not performing presence, but simply inside it, all the way in. She caught me watching her. "What?" she said. "Nothing," I said. She looked at the fish tank, then back at me. "I'm going to tell you things sooner," she said. "I'm not promising perfect, but I'm going to try harder." "I know," I said. "Elena is going to keep telling people things at the hospital," she said. She gets that from you, I said. The need to say things out loud to process them. Veronica looked at me with the expression of someone who found that accurate and personally inconvenient. She gets the stubbornness from you, she said. She gets it from both of us, I said. Veronica looked at Elena, who was explaining to James that the fish had feelings and that Gerald had confirmed this scientifically. Yes, Veronica said quietly. She is. There was a moment sitting at that table with pasta and the fish tank, and both children healthy and her hand over mine, where I thought about the Vegas chapel. The drunk question she had no right to ask. The woman who had spent 30 years deciding she didn't need anyone slowly, imperfectly, with enormous resistance, becoming someone who could sit in a parking lot and cry and let me see it. She was not finished, neither was I, but we were here. That was always the part that mattered most. The phone call came 6 weeks later on a Thursday afternoon. Unknown number, out of state. I answered because I always answered unknown numbers since the children. You never know. The voice was a woman's, older, careful. Something in the way she said my full name that told me she had practiced it. She said she was calling about Veronica. The cold moved through me before I could stop it. No emergency, she said quickly. No one is hurt. I want to say that before anything else. Who are you? I said. My name is Margaret, she said. She paused the way people pause before things that are difficult to say. I'm Veronica's mother. I sat down. This should not have been possible. Veronica had told me, early in our couch conversations when she was still learning how to be a person in the room with another person, that her mother had left when she was 11 years old, that she had not heard from her in over 20 years, that she had made her peace with the absence and had no interest in revisiting it. She had said it with the particular finality of someone who has locked a door and removed the key from the building entirely. How did you find this number? I said. She explained. An article about Riverside Medical, the new chief of surgery. A wedding announcement from 4 years ago. She had found me through the public record of our life. I'm not calling to disrupt anything, she said. I know I have no right to be in her life. I know 20 years is not something you can apologize away. Then why are you calling? I said. Because I have a medical situation, she said. My doctors have told me it has a hereditary component. She needs to know, not for my sake, for hers and for her children's. I sat very still. Tell me, I said. What kind of situation? She told me. When she finished, I stayed on the floor of my study for a long time, the afternoon light coming through the window. James laughing at something downstairs. Elensa's school bag by the door. All the ordinary furniture of our life arranged around a thing that was not ordinary at all. I thought about Veronica at 11 years old, the door that locked the 20 years of distance. The woman who had decided that needing people was the most dangerous thing you could do, and all the events that had taught her that, starting with a mother who left. I thought about telling her, about what it would cost, about the door, about everything we had built, and whether it was strong enough to hold one more unexpected thing dropped into it from outside. Then I thought about what she had said at the fish tank restaurant 6 weeks ago. I'm going to tell you things sooner. And I thought about what a marriage actually was. Not the chapel. Not the paperwork. Not the rings or the vows or the beautiful ordinary life we had built. A marriage was this moment, this exact moment. When something arrives that you did not ask for and cannot manage alone, and you pick up the phone and you call the person who said I'm here and you trust that they meant it. I called her. She answered on the first ring. I need you to come home, I said. There's something we need to talk about. The pause that knew how to read me. What happened, she said. Everyone is fine, I said. But something has come up and I need you here and I need us to face it together. She was home in 16 minutes. She came through the door, still in the white coat, and she saw my face from across the room, and she crossed to me, and she did not ask again because she knew I would tell her when I was ready. She took my hands. I'm here, I said. That's why I called you. I looked at my wife. The woman who had handed me a towel in a Vegas hotel room and said no arguments and meant it as kindness. who had learned how to cry in parking lots and say, I love you more than I know how to say correctly and mean both things at once. I need to tell you something, I said. She held my hands. Okay, she said, so I told her. The room was very quiet when I finished. The afternoon light in the window, James laughing downstairs, Elena explaining something to Gerald in the next room. All the sounds of the life we had built doing what they always did, continuing. Veronica stood very still. Then she said, I see, not a reaction, not a collapse. Just those two words, the way she received things that were too large to process immediately, filing them somewhere real before deciding what they meant. Then she looked at me. You answered the call, she said. Yes, I said. You could have not told me, she said. You could have decided I didn't need to know. That's not what we do, I said. She looked at our joined hands. No, she said, it's not. We stood in our living room, with the weight of a name that had been absent for 20 years now present in the room between us, and everything that name carried, and all the decisions that were waiting on the other side of this moment. Not tonight, though. Tonight was just this. Her hands in mine, a room that held. A marriage that had been built from nothing, from drunk and stupid, and running from our own pain, into something that could take the weight of the things that arrived without warning. What do you need? I said. She thought about it. The real answer, not the quick one. I need tonight, she said. I need to not decide anything tonight. I need to sit with it. Okay, I said. And I need you here, she said. I'm here, I said. She looked at me with the expression that had no architecture in it, just her face ached open. I know, she said. That's the only reason I can sit with it at all. So we sat, and the city did what it always did outside our windows, and our children lived their ordinary, extraordinary lives down the hall. And Gerald held his position, and the evening came through the windows and wrapped around us, and we were not finished. We were never going to be finished. That was never the point. The point was always this: the choosing, the showing up, the answering on the first ring and coming home in 16 minutes and saying I'm here and meaning it every single time. Always yes. Still here, whatever comes next, still here.